Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we meet here, the energy it's pretty high.
Right.
We're usually sprinting. We're stacking up data points, tearing through tech trends, or, trying to optimize your workflow to squeeze out another
We
5%.
treat information like fuel.
Exactly. But today feels different.
It does, yeah. The air's a little different in the room today.
It is. Because the ideas we're exploring, they don't really work if you sprint through them. We're looking at a collection of writings and parables. Some really profound Zen wisdom on a topic we usually run away from at full speed.
Mistakes.
Mistakes. Failure. The shatter.
It's definitely a shift in gears. I mean, normally a deep dive is about finding the answer.
The cleanest solution.
The most efficient solution to a problem, right?
Yeah.
But these stories, these perspectives we have today, they're not interested in the solution. They're interested in the crack in the solution.
The crack. That's a good place to start. So the theme today is the silence after the shatter. It's an exploration of error and imperfection, but not in the way we usually talk about it, in the corporate world.
Right.
It's not how to fix it or how to spin it into a win.
No, it's about what the mistake is right now. Not what it can do for you later, but what it is in this moment.
So before we get too heavy, I want to start where the material suggests we start, with an image.
A visualization.
Yeah. So I want to invite you, if you're listening right now, to just pause. I mean, if you're commuting, keep your eyes on the road, of course, but if you can, go there with us.
Let's set the scene. Imagine you're in a temple, a very old one.
Wooden.
Yeah, a wooden structure. It's dawn, and it's incredibly quiet.
The kind of quiet that feels heavy.
Exactly. And you can smell that mix of aged cedar wood and faint incense. The kind of smell that feels like it's been soaking into the walls for like 500 years.
I can picture it.
And in the center of the room, there's a monk. He's reaching for his morning tea.
And the bowl, it's simple,
Yep.
unglazed, just clay, right?
That's it. He lifts it, but his fingers slip. The bowl falls. It hits the wooden floor with a sharp, sudden crack. And then
Silence.
silence.
That moment, that specific silence, I think that's a universal trigger for me.
How so?
Well, if I'm honest, when I visualize that, I don't feel peace. I feel a spike of adrenaline. I expect a curse word or a heavy sigh. I expect that flush of heat to the face that says, I messed up.
That's the reaction we're conditioned for, isn't it? It's the social script. But I want us to look closer at that silence, the silence after the fall.
Okay.
This isn't just an absence of sound, it's the arrival of a presence. Time doesn't stop, it expands. The monk doesn't curse, he doesn't rush to sweep it up, he just stands there, looking at the pieces.
See, that's where I get stuck. Because in my life, and I think for most people listening, if I drop the bowl, it is not a poetic moment.
No.
If I send an email with a typo to a major client, or if I say the wrong thing in a high-stakes meeting, I don't feel presence. I feel panic.
You feel like you've deviated from the script.
Exactly. I feel like I'm in danger. Because I've been taught that the error is the enemy.
Well, is that feeling wrong?
I don't know. If I make enough errors, I lose my job. That feels like an enemy to me.
In the operational world, sure, consequences are real, we're not denying that, but we're talking about the internal relationship with the error.
Okay.
The core question this deep dive poses is, why are we so terrified of the shatter itself? Why does it feel like a moral failing?
Right.
The perspective here suggests a pretty radical shift. It argues that understanding doesn't begin when we get it right. It begins when we dare to be wrong.
So a mistake isn't a deviation from the past.
It is the path, revealing itself in a new shape.
The mistake is the path. That's a lovely bumper sticker, but let's unpack that. How can it be the path?
Let's go back to the bowl. On the floor. When that bowl shatters, does it become less true?
It becomes less useful as a bowl.
Less useful for holding tea, yes, but is it less real? The argument here is that when it breaks, it actually becomes more honest.
More honest.
Before it broke, it held this illusion of permanence. We think things and people and careers are solid, unchanging. But when it breaks, it reveals its fragility. It reveals that it was just clay all along.
It reveals its humanity, in a way.
Exactly. Modern life demands rightness. We are obsessed with it. We optimize every choice. We edit out the pauses.
We do. We literally edit the ums and stumbles out of this show to make us sound smarter.
Yeah.
Seamless.
But what if that pursuit of rightness is actually keeping us from seeing what's already whole? What if our fear of error is actually a fear of being seen?
Being seen as, yes,
What?
incompetent.
As unfinished, vulnerable. We treat mistakes as endings, as evidence that we aren't good enough. But in the spirit of Zen, a mistake is a beginning. It's an invitation to look again.
This reminds me of the Koan. I've always thought of them as these, impossible riddles, brain teasers for monks.
That's a common misconception. Calling it a riddle implies there's a clever answer. The most famous one is, what is the sound of one hand clapping?
Right. And my brain immediately tries to solve it. I'm thinking about physics, about air moving. Is it silence?
And that frustration you feel, that spinning of the gears, that is the point.
The frustration is the point.
The mind wants to fix the problem, to categorize it, solve it, file it away. But the koan isn't meant to be solved. It's meant to unsettle you. The shattered bowl is a koan. It's not a problem to fix. It's a question to live.
A question to live. That's hard, though. We're wired to fix things.
Unnatural to the adult mind, perhaps? But think about how children learn. The sources bring up this image of a toddler spilling a glass of water.
Oh, yeah.
A full glass, right onto the floor. What does she do?
She usually just plays in it. She slaps the water.
Exactly. She doesn't think, I'm a clumsy failure, my parents are gonna fire me. She just stares at the puddle. She's fascinated by how it spreads, how it catches the light.
That's beginner's mind, isn't it, Shushin?
It is. There's no judgment, only wonder. But as we grow up, we get that internal narrator, the one that says, you should have known better. We tense up.
We stop taking risks.
Because we're terrified of the spill. But this philosophy invites us back to the mind that can spill tea and smile, because it knows the tea was never the point.
Wait, hold on. The tea wasn't the point. If I'm making tea, the point is to drink the tea.
In the ritual of life, the point isn't consumption. The point was the pouring, the holding, and the letting go. If you cling to the outcome, you miss the moment.
Let's pivot here to the second area, which is art. Because it's one thing to talk about spilt water, but another to talk about creating something.
Yes, there's a wonderful story about a calligraphy master. He's commissioned to write the character for emptiness for a wealthy patron.
High stakes.
Very. He prepares his brush, he breathes, and paints it in one fluid motion. But he leaves the final stroke incomplete.
And the patron who paid good money probably says, hey, you forgot the last line.
Of course, he wants a complete product. And the master smiles and says, no, I left it open so emptiness could breathe.
I left it open so emptiness could breathe.
Wow, that's profound. It really hits on a truth we often miss. Perfection is static. It's sealed tight. It has no room for breath. But imperfection is alive. It trembles.
This connects to kintsugi, right?
Yeah.
The art of repairing pottery with gold. It's become really trendy.
It has. You see it everywhere. But we need to be careful how we view it. We often look at it as, making the best of a bad situation, a salvage operation.
Right. It's broken, but look, now it has gold stripes.
But the philosophy is so much deeper. It's not restoration. Restoration tries to hide the break, make it look like it never happened.
Which is what we do with our lives.
We do. We hide the gap years on our resumes. We scrub our social media. We want to present the finished product.
The perfect unbroken bowl.
Kintsugi is transformation. It highlights the break. It fills it with gold, the most valuable thing. It doesn't erase the past. It honors it. The error becomes a line in the map of becoming. It says, this object has a history. It has survived.
It's the difference between hiding your scars and wearing them.
Precisely. And this applies to our own internal world. There's a story about a child drawing a sun.
The purple sun. I totally related to this.
Right.
The child draws a purple sun, and the adult comes over and corrects them. Suns are yellow.
And factually, the adult is right. But the argument here is that the purple sun captured something else. It captured wonder. It wasn't factually true, but it was felt true.
That connects right to the struggle of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, I've tried. I have the apps, I have the cushion, and I spend the whole 20 minutes just getting angry at myself.
Angry why?
Because my mind is racing. I'm thinking about an email I regretted sending, what I need to cook for dinner. I'm replaying a conversation I messed up 3 years ago. I feel like I'm doing it wrong.
That is the most common experience. We think a good meditation is a blank screen. But there's a massive shift here. Instead of fighting the thought, you lean into it.
Lean into it.
Acknowledge it. Say, here is regret. Here is the human mind doing what it does.
So the distraction isn't an obstacle to the meditation.
The distraction is the meditation. Presence is the willingness to meet the messiness without turning away.
That segues perfectly into the next big theme. The obstacle is the path. This is the part of the deep dive that I think really challenges our modern obsession with progress.
It does. There is a parable of a traveler in a forest. He has a map, a plan, a timeline, but he's distracted. Takes a wrong turn, he gets lost.
Which is the nightmare scenario, being off the map, no signal.
panic. But because he's lost, because he can't rely on his plan anymore, he has to stop. He sits on a mossy stone, and in that silence, he hears a trickling sound. A hidden spring.
One he never would have found on the main path.
Never, and he drinks from it. It refreshes him in a way the planned route never could have.
So the paradox is that we don't find understanding by avoiding mistakes. We find it by being willing to be completely lost.
Yes. And in our modern age, we've forgotten how to be lost. We think being lost is a failure of planning, but in this view, being lost is a state of availability. When you're lost, you're wide awake, you're listening.
But I want to push back a little, because we hear about the growth mindset all the time. Fail fast. Learn from your mistakes. Isn't that what we're saying here?
Not exactly, and this is a crucial distinction. The Zen perspective is actually pretty critical of that. It suggests that even learning from mistakes can become another form of performance.
Performance. How?
We think, I must fix this failure quickly and turn it into a success story so I can post about it on LinkedIn.
Right. I went bankrupt, and here are the 3 things I learned that made me a billionaire. It's a content strategy.
Exactly. It's still about control. It's commodifying the error. Zen asks something quieter and, frankly, more terrifying. What if you don't need to turn the mistake into anything? What if the mistake itself is enough?
That's hard to swallow. If I make a mistake, I want to redeem it, make it worth it.
Of course. But look at the story of the monk in the cushion. A monk tries for years to be enlightened. He's doing everything right.
The valedictorian of monk school.
Right. Finally, he's so exhausted and frustrated that he screams, "I give up," and throws his meditation cushion across the room.
A total loss of composure.
Total failure. And the teacher looks at him, laughs, and says, "Now you are ready."
Why? Because he gave up.
Because he stopped performing enlightenment, he stopped trying to be the perfect monk and actually touched his raw human frustration. His outburst was the doorway. The moment he stopped trying to be holy, he became real.
It reminds me of the image of the potter. His vase collapses in the kiln. It's ruined, and his reaction is, "Good. Now I know the clay's limits. Now I know my own."
The error is data, not damnation.
I want to get practical for a minute. We're talking about bowls and vases. But in real life, we break bigger things. We break promises, relationships. How does this apply when the stakes are high? When it's not just oops, but deep regret?
The wisdom addresses this with a story about Master Ikki. A student comes to him, terrified, because he has broken the monastery's sacred incense burner.
Oh, wow. Not a cheap bowl. This is a precious, holy object. A career-ending mistake.
Excommunication, probably. But Master Ikki looks at the pieces. He doesn't yell, he laughs. And he says, "Now it's yours."
Now it's yours. What does that even mean?
He meant that the experience now belonged to him. The object was no longer an abstract ideal of sacredness. It was real. It was broken. And the weight of that breaking was now part of the student's path. The regret, the fear, the loss, that is the curriculum.
Which brings up that shocking koan, probably the most famous one. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him.
It is shocking, it sounds violent, and just to clarify.
Yes, disclaimer, do not kill anyone.
Please. Metaphorically, it warns us against clinging to ideals. The Buddha in the road represents your idea of perfection.
The perfect version of yourself, the perfect life you think you should be leading.
Exactly. If you meet that phantom, that ideal, you have to kill it.
Because as long as I'm obsessing over the perfect version of me, I'm hating the real version of me.
You've got it. You miss the living truth of who you are right now. You miss the stumble. And the stumble is where the life is.
It's like jazz. We talked about this before.
It's a great analogy. In classical music, if you're playing Mozart and you hit a wrong note, it's a mistake.
It is. You stop the music.
You failed the score. But in jazz, a wrong note is an opportunity. You don't stop and apologize. You lean into it. You repeat it. You build a new melody around it.
You improvise.
And life is improvisation.
Right.
We're so desperate for the sheet music, but we're writing it in real time. The insight here is that understanding doesn't arrive like a flash of lightning. It arrives as a relaxation, a softening of resistance.
A relaxation. That feels so counterintuitive. I feel like I need to tense up to fix my mistakes.
Yeah.
I need to lock in.
That tension is the resistance. That's you trying to be the person who didn't make the mistake, but you are the person who made the mistake. We need to stop asking, how do I fix this? And start asking, what is this trying to show me?
That brings us to the final practice. The next time I mess up, I send the wrong file, I snap at my partner. What do?
The advice is simple, but it's not easy. Pause. Physically pause. Place your hand on your heart if you can. Fuel that you're still here, the sky didn't fall. And instead of rushing to fix, just sit with the question, what is this trying to show me?
Don't manufacture a meaning. Just listen.
Just listen. There's a final image from the text that I think captures this so beautifully. It's Kinnan, the walking meditation. Monks walking in a slow circle. Occasionally, a monk will trip.
And does everyone stop and stare?
No. And he doesn't stop, he doesn't apologize, he continues walking, just weaving the stumble into the rhythm of the step.
It becomes part of the walk.
The stumble is the step.
That leads to the final thought from the source, which I think is one of the most powerful lines we've read in a long time.
What if your next mistake is not a fall, but a bow?
The bow.
A bow to the mystery, a bow to the fact that you are already exactly where you need to be. You're not separate from your mistakes, you are made of them. And that's not a flaw, that's the design.
It really changes the way you look at a bad day.
Yeah.
It's not a waste of time, it's just the path.
The path is the obstacle, and the silence after the shatter isn't empty, it's full.
Thank you for walking through this with us. It's a lot to sit with.
It is. Now listen.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Or perhaps we'll see you in the stumble.